Not all rituals are meant to be seen, and not all that are seen are real. Beneath the surface of history, beneath the polished stones of temples, beneath the words of sacred texts, there were rituals, but not the kind you imagine. Not performances, not pageantry, not repetition for tradition's sake. These were technologies of transformation. To the untrained eye, a ritual is gesture, chant, dress, ceremony. But to those who remembered, those few initiates who held the living thread, a ritual was something else entirely. A tool, a method to alter consciousness, to change reality from the inside out, to open the veil, to speak across worlds, to become more. Before temples became monuments, they were machines. Every angle, every chamber, every echo was tuned to the human body, to its breath, to its vibration. You did not go to a ritual to observe. You went to be recalibrated. In ancient Egypt, in the shadow of the pyramids, initiates walked through darkness, silence, and sacred geometry. Each step triggered memories long buried in the soul. It was not taught. It was remembered, activated by space, sound, and presence. In Sumer, before the empire, rituals involved complex star alignments, tones, and bodily postures that shifted perception, not as metaphor, but as mechanism. In pre-Vedic India, rituals were breathing patterns, sacred syllables, movements synchronized with planetary cycles. Each one a kind of interface with reality, each one a password to access what modern minds now call unreal. But they were not unreal. They were forbidden, erased. These rituals did not serve systems. They served the soul. They revealed truths that could not be controlled. And that was dangerous. Because a true ritual does not bind, it frees. It does not instruct, it initiates. And once a being is truly initiated, they cannot be ruled by illusion anymore. They become sovereign. They see. They remember. This remembering is what was feared. Because the ones who see cannot be led blindly. The ones who remember cannot be pacified with doctrine. They carry light in their eyes and silence in their bones. And so, the rituals were hidden, buried beneath layers of culture, myth, and entertainment, replaced with spectacle, with ceremony without soul. But something remains. A pulse, a residue, a feeling you've had but couldn't name. That moment in a temple when the air seems heavier. That echo in the spine when a chant hits just right. That dream you couldn't explain, but knew was more real than waking. That's where the rituals still live. Not in books, not in lectures, but in you. In the bones, in the breath, in the spaces between thought. You were not meant to be told. You were meant to be shown. And now, you are remembering. The curtain is thin, and behind it, the ritual waits, not as history, but as home. You think of ritual as art, but once it was science, a living technology, a system of precision, not belief. There was a time when humans understood reality is not fixed, it is tuned. And ritual was the tuning mechanism. Not metaphor, not myth, but design. A set of movements, sounds, and symbols engineered to shift consciousness, not by hope, but by resonance. The ancients did not pray for change. They entered change. They became the frequency required to alter the world from within. This was not superstition. This was interaction with the living structure of reality. Everything mattered. The sound of a syllable, the geometry of a temple, the direction of a turn, the number of steps, the breath between words. Each detail was an access point, a code, a key in a lock so ancient that we've forgotten there was ever a door. They understood space not just as background, but as intelligent architecture. Temples were not places of worship, they were machines, built according to star maps, aligned to solstices, resonant chambers carved to amplify the human voice into cosmic tone. You didn't go there to ask, you went there to transform. Sound was not music, it was mathematics made sacred. Mantras were not poems, they were commands, vibrational formulas, tuned to unlock levels of awareness hidden in the nervous system. Breath was not just life, it was the lever. Controlled breath could bend perception, could still time, could bridge the conscious and the unseen. Movement was not dance, it was geometry in motion. A mudra, a turn, a step in rhythm with the sky, all designed to signal the field that something sacred was being invoked. The ritual was not symbolic, it was functional. You weren't pretending to call down heaven, you were synchronizing with it. But all technology can be misused, and so the rituals were hidden. Those who knew protected them, wrapped them in stories, buried them in drama and myth. To find the real thing, you had to be ready. Not clever, not curious, ready. Because once you enter a true ritual, you do not leave unchanged. The program runs, the pattern activates, you are rewritten. This is why real ritual feels different, timeless, charged. You don't remember what was said, but you remember how it echoed inside you. Your heart beats slower, your breath deepens, and something inside you turns like a lock being opened from within. That's not belief, that's contact. So ask yourself, what if every movement in your life was part of a forgotten ritual? What if your body still remembers the code, but your mind stopped listening? The rituals weren't lost, they were muted. But the code is still there, in sound, in shape, in breath, waiting for one thing, your attention. Ritual is not an escape from reality. It is a return to the source code of it. Some knowledge disappears through time, but some is buried. Deliberately, ritually, systematically. The sacred was not lost, it was silenced. And the ones who silenced it knew exactly what they were doing. Real rituals do not entertain, they awaken. And those who awaken are dangerous, not to others, but to the system. Because awakened beings do not obey blindly, they do not fear, they do not trade truth for comfort. They remember. And that remembering is revolution. So the rituals had to go, not because they were broken, but because they worked. What happens when people begin to hear something deeper than doctrine? What happens when breath leads further than belief? They step outside the fence. They leave the script. They begin to question the shape of the cage. That's when erasure begins. Not by fire, not by sword, but by dilution. First, the rituals are separated from experience. Then they are turned into performance. Then they are rewritten, sanitized, censored. Finally, they are replaced with hollow prayers, with polished myths, with distractions in sacred disguise. The temple becomes museum, the fire becomes symbol, the silence becomes noise. And still a few remember. They are called heretics, witches, mystics, madmen. But all they carry is memory. Memory of the real ritual. Not to dominate, not to escape, but to become. Throughout history, this is played on repeat. The burning of the Library of Alexandria, the persecution of Gnostic schools, the suppression of indigenous ceremonies, the rewriting of sacred texts. Each act justified by order, each erasure made in the name of God. But beneath it all was fear. Fear of what the ritual reveals, that you do not need an intermediary, that divinity lives in you. That's the secret the systems could not tolerate. Because once you know that, you can't be controlled the same way. Real ritual does not bind you to a dogma. It frees you from illusion. It pulls back the veil. It burns away the false eye. It gives you back to yourself. No empire survives that kind of clarity. No church, no throne, no hierarchy can stand against a soul who knows what they are. So the rituals were erased, not just from history books, but from you. From your body, your language, your memory. You were taught to forget, but forgetting is not the same as disappearance. The code remains in your bones, in your breath, in your dreams. It waits, not to be taught, but to be remembered. And remembering begins when you start to question what you've been shown, when you feel the faint vibration beneath the noise of this world, when you ask, what have I lost that I never knew I had? The rituals were erased from the world, but they were not erased from you. They were hidden inside you, because that is the one place they could not be burned. They tried to erase the rituals, but you cannot kill a pattern. You cannot burn a vibration. You cannot silence what was never spoken. The rituals are not gone. They are fragmented, scattered like sacred dust across culture, movement, symbol, sound. You've seen them, you just didn't know what you were looking at. They hide in plain sight, in stained glass geometry, in spiral staircases, in the silent poses of statues, in the rhythm of breath, in the curves of cathedrals, in the design of labyrinths that were meant not to confuse, but to initiate. The ancient dance, not performance, but encoded memory. Each movement, a glyph, each step a syllable in the language of the body. The mantras chanted in temples, not prayer, but resonant commands, activating dormant layers of mind. Even the martial arts, what are they really? Combat or ritual in motion? Energy discipline, awareness, alignment with forces greater than the individual self. That is ritual wearing the mask of mastery. The rituals remain in breathwork, not invented, rediscovered. Because the breath never forgot, it always knew the way back. Fragments live in the tarot, in sacred geometry, in the 7 tones of the scale, in the architecture of pyramids, in crop circles, in the deep silence between ancient bells. Symbols are not decoration, they are anchors. The spiral, the Ouroboros, the Vesica piscis, the staff entwined with serpents, all echoes, all remnants, all call signs of something ancient reaching forward through time. Why do they feel familiar? Because part of you remembers. Because memory is not just mental, it's cellular, somatic, energetic. You don't understand a true symbol. You resonate with it. You ache with it. It awakens something that doesn't speak in words. The language of the old rituals was feeling, direct knowing, unmediated contact. So, of course, the pieces that remain show up in music, movement, silence. That is where memory hides best. Have you ever heard a sound that made you cry for no reason? Ever stood in a space that felt sacred, though no one told you it was? Ever seen a pattern, a shape, a gesture, and felt a flicker of something beyond? Those are the fragments. They're not random, they're not decoration. They are keys buried in culture, waiting to be turned. Not all rituals vanished. Some adapted. Some disguised themselves. Some entered the bloodstream of myth. Others hid in the bones of buildings and the breath of the wind. We were never left empty. We were scattered. But even in scattering, the pattern persists. And the moment you begin to see it, it begins to reassemble itself around you. The rituals left fingerprints, and those fingerprints are everywhere, waiting for your memory to catch up. When ritual disappears, something deeper goes with it. Not just knowledge, not just culture, but orientation. A sense of place, of rhythm, of why you are here. We did not simply lose ceremonies, we lost the map. And without a map, you can build a world, but you can't build a soul. Today, we call it anxiety, depression, disconnection. But these are just the names we give to a spiritual absence that we no longer have words for. The ritual is gone, and in its place, noise, speed, simulation. We have rituals now, but they are hollow. Birth, marriage, death, paperwork, photos, social performance. But where is the initiation? Where is the encounter with the real? Rituals once marked transformation, not status. You entered the cave as one and emerged as another. That was the contract. The risk, the power. Now we mimic the shape, but without the fire. The cost of forgetting is not just external, it's internal. We no longer know what to do with grief, with longing, with vision, with power. So we suppress, we medicate, we numb, but the ache remains. Because the soul remembers what the mind was trained to forget. You were meant to pass through gates, to face the mirror, to bow before silence, to lose and find yourself again in the space between identities. Without ritual, we don't shed our skins. We accumulate them. Masks upon masks, roles upon roles. We grow older, but we do not become. We are full of input, but empty of meaning. We scroll through symbols, but none of them touch the spine. We have information, but no transformation. This is the true poverty of modern life. Not lack of wealth, but lack of sacred process. We have pleasure, but not ecstasy. We have distraction, but not devotion. We have performance, but not presence. We fear silence. We avoid stillness. We reject mystery because we've forgotten that the darkness was once the temple and the unknown was the threshold. But the ache remains, like a call in the bones, a whisper in the chest, a tension that says, something is missing. Something was meant to begin and never did. You were meant to be initiated, not by force, but by beauty, by truth, by contact with what is realer than words. Without ritual, we wander, not aimlessly, but endlessly, looking for something we can't name, looking for ourselves. The cost of forgetting is not the absence of belief, it's the absence of becoming. Nothing sacred is ever truly lost. It only sleeps, it waits, it listens for the moment you're ready to remember. The rituals we forgot are not gone. They echo. They move beneath the noise. They hum beneath your breath. They hide inside moments you've dismissed as nothing. A dream that shakes you. A place that feels ancient though you've never been. A song that opens something inside you. something that doesn't even have a name. That's the ritual calling back. It never needed to be found, only recognized. Not all rituals come with robes and chants. Sometimes they come as a stillness you cannot explain, a silence that fills you instead of empties you. Sometimes they arrive as heat in the spine, as tears that feel older than this lifetime, as images that flicker behind your eyes, as if an old world was trying to remember itself through you. Ritual is not a performance. It's a return, a realignment, a reactivation. And right now, it's happening all over the world. In breathwork circles, in ecstatic dance, in fasting retreats, in spontaneous movements done alone, in darkness, without instruction, in ancient chants you've never learned, but suddenly begin to hum under your breath. You are not inventing them. You are retrieving them. Because you don't learn ritual from the outside. You remember it from within. You don't need permission. You don't need certification. You don't even need belief. Only presence, only stillness, only the courage to follow what stirs without explanation. The rituals are returning through. Asterisk the hands that tremble in meditation. Asterisk the voice that shakes during chant. Asterisk the art that flows without planning. Asterisk the movements that rise from the spine like memory waking up. This is how it begins again. Not with temples, but with trembling. Not with knowledge, but with recognition. You were never supposed to imitate. You were meant to resonate. And resonance is how the ritual finds you. In the moment your mind finally stops trying to understand, the body begins to remember. And then the ritual begins, not outside, inside. No instruction, no audience, no reward. Just you and something ancient, moving through you like light rediscovering the shape of glass. You don't need to find the ritual. You are the ritual. Or rather, the ritual is waking up inside you. It always knew where to find you. You only had to stop running long enough to hear it. In the end, you realize you were never meant to find the ritual. You were meant to become it. All your seeking, all the books, the temples, the whispers, the questions, led you not forward, but inward, to a silence, to a knowing, to a space where the sacred is not performed, but lived. You are not outside the ritual. You are the altar, the breath, the flame. Your heartbeat is the drum, your spine, the pillar, your body, the ancient temple rebuilt in living flesh. Every gesture sacred, every breath a mantra, every tear an offering. They tried to erase the rituals, but they could not erase you. Because the real ritual was never in the stone, never in the scrolls, never in the priesthood. It was in the soul. And souls cannot be burned. Now you begin to see. The way you wake in the morning, the way you hold silence before speaking, the way you walk through sunlight or shadow, that is the ritual. When done with presence, when done with reverence, even the smallest act becomes holy. It doesn't require incense, only attention. It doesn't require chants, only truth. It doesn't require approval, only alignment. The sacred does not ask you to change who you are. It asks you to become who you've always been, but without forgetting. That's the final veil, to remember that the doorway was never locked, only ignored. You were never outside the mystery. You are the mystery, remembering itself through breath and skin and thought. So walk as if each step is prayer. Speak as if each word is a vibration that shapes the world. Be still as if the silence around you is listening, because it is. You don't need to wear the symbols. You are the symbol. You don't need to invoke the gods. You carry the spark. You don't need the old scripts. You are the living scripture. This is the secret they could never truly hide, that the greatest ritual is your own awakening, not once, but in every moment. In the way you meet yourself, in the way you meet others, in the way you meet the divine in the ordinary. You are not lost. You are not missing something. You are not waiting. You are returning, not to a forgotten rite, but to the place within you that was never not sacred. The ritual is not out there. The ritual is you.